Jets fans, free agency is just around the corner. Here are 9 players the Jets need to consider. I'm Julian Locasso, joined by my co-host Nick Perry, and this is the Gangrene Report. The free agency legal tampering period is this Monday, and we have tons of names that should be on the Jets' radar come Monday morning. Let's dive in, guys. Number 1 is going to be Justin Fields, quarterback out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has been heavily linked to the New York Jets from several. Jordan Schultz especially reported that the Jets have heavily been involved in conversations around the young 26-year-old quarterback. Guys, if there's any lessons to be learned from the recent retread options at quarterback, these guys like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, other guys that have kind of had late career resurgences, it's that we probably shouldn't completely give up on a quarterback until they've had a shot with a quality coaching staff and supporting cast. So while Fields did eventually get overtaken by Russell Wilson this season, we already saw signs of improvement during his 4-2 run as a Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback. The physical tools are still undeniable and offer tons of value. Even if he's solely deployed in certain packages, I think this is a guy that the Jets should highly consider bringing in. Again, he's only 26 years old. His youth alone and the mobility aspect that he brings to the quarterback position, a guy that literally had 1,000-yard rushing season a couple seasons ago, just that alone should provide tons of outlook for this position. Plus, there's upside in terms of the Jets because of the connection that he has with star wide receiver Garrett Wilson and Jeremy Ruckert. This is a guy that would be a low-risk, high-reward signing. It would, as of right now, it's only being projected that he would be a 1-year, $11 million contract. But I've seen rumors that the Jets would be willing to offer him a 2-year deal worth up to $20 million. So I think this is a low-risk move that doesn't preclude you from taking a quarterback in the mid-rounds this season or looking for your franchise guy next season as well. Again, this isn't somebody that I'm saying is a franchise savior, but it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be, you wouldn't be necessarily moving off of him or be afraid to move off of him in this year or next year at the quarterback position. So this would be my number 1 guy.
I agree. And when was the last time the Jets actually had a running quarterback? That'd be lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
I would
They
love
haven't
that.
had one in a very long time.
I can't remember. But anyway, number 2 on our list, somebody who is heavily high up on the board and getting a lot of attention, especially after his performances last year and the past couple years. Second option was the second-round draft pick out of Oregon, 2020 Holland. He's ranked as one of the top 5 highest-graded safeties in 2 of his first 3 seasons in the league. He earned a career low 63 PFF overall grade in 2024, but his body of work more than speaks for itself. He was one of the captains for that Miami Dolphins defense. Prior to this past season, he excelled in both pass coverage and in the run game. He was more of a chess piece when he played for the Dolphins, lining up all over the field. He was on the line, in the slot, in the box, back deep, everywhere. Anytime you can weaken a division rival, especially somebody like the Dolphins, who just seem to always give the Jets a hard time every year, that would be fantastic. Just takes a huge piece away from them, would be great. Unfortunately, he won't be cheap. That's like the hardest part. PFF has him at about 19.5 million average, and Spotrac is on about 15 million. So if you look at contracts, Minkah Fitzpatrick got 4 years, 73 million, 73.5 million. You could see him getting that type of deal because of his age, because he's so young as well, and production based on the previous years. That would bring him close to an 18.5 annual salary. Again, I feel like he's one of those guys at safety. He just flies all around the field. He'd be a huge part of the Jets defense for the upcoming years.
Yeah, I think that, again, this is a guy who's just 25 years old, about to be 26, going into his age 26 season. I think this is a guy that would instantly add to our secondary and just make us so much better. And like you said, it just weakens a division rival. I think that's like the biggest key. Anytime we can take away key players and big-time players for teams that we're going to play multiple times a year, that's a win for us. So I like that role. Number 3, and this is another guy that's going to be linked to the New York Jets organization, and that is Charvarius Ward, defensive back out of San Francisco. Ward struggled in 2024 and posted career lows in numbers for PFF metrics, but his overall body of work will keep him as one of the top options on the market in 2025. Last year was his best in the NFL to date, with an 86.5 PFF coverage grade, ranking him 3rd among all players at the position. With cornerback teammate Lenoir, I believe that's his name, received an in-season extension. The writing kind of just appeared on the wall that Ward wouldn't be on San Francisco much longer. They're also kind of a team that kind of cycles through corners every couple of years. So you will see them kind of go through guys and bring in new blood every year. So he comes from the biggest thing that really pops off the charts for the Jets, and the biggest reason why he's probably somebody that's going to, be an option for us, is he comes from a system where he worked with our now defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, back in 2023 and 2024, where they ultimately lost in the Super Bowl. Steve Wilks kind of got canned that season and was scapegoated for the loss. They blamed the defense for not being able to come up big in that final game. Ward, kind of like we talked about with Javon Holland, he had a bad 2024, but he thrived in 2023 under Wilks. He was the third-ranked coverage corner in the entire league and was 44th in the league in run defense out of 229 corners. And he was the second in the league in takeaways, which the Jets have been atrocious at in the past couple of seasons. Seeing that they didn't extend DJ Reed, and we're not sure if he's even going to come back, we have no clue if that's even going to be an option for us. This can be somebody that the coaching staff that we currently have is now very familiar with and could add some extra juice to that defensive back room. The thing is, obviously, he's going to come at a premium. This is a position of need, and not just a position of need, it's a position of high value, so it's going to cost a lot of money. PFF has it currently at a $14.5 million average salary, while SpotTrack has it about 15.3. I'm kind of going in the camp with a 3-year, $15.2 million average salary. That'll probably be more of a $45.5 million contract. So this is somebody that I really think that the Jets could consider at the position, just off of familiarity and just understanding who we have in the room.
Yeah, Javon Holland take away from division rival, Ward take away from their new defensive coordinator, our old head coach. So that would be great too.
Yep,
Not that I didn't like him, but that'd be nice just to kind of stick it to him a little bit more.
There you go. I wouldn't mind at all.
Not at all. I'm not petty. Paulson Adebo, next guy on the list for us, cornerback from the New Orleans Saints. Adebo was remarkably productive to start the 2024 season. Unfortunately, again, injury, broken femur, knocked him out for the remainder of the year. Following the trade deadline departure of cornerback Lattimore, Adebo would have had half of the season's runway to truly get tested as the number one outside corner, week in and out, as a number one outside corner, week in and week out. Could have said a lot about his market value. He will face questions now about his recovery timeline, and is he at his peak window right now? This could be a low-risk, high-reward signing for the Jets, just saying that we need a CB2 behind Sauce. He is only 25 years old and ran a similar scheme under Dennis Allen. They'll be running here in New York. Biggest thing, he gets a ton of turnovers. Before his injury, he had 3 interceptions, and he could have even had more had he not broken his femur. Jets' biggest issue has been creating turnovers, as you just stated. We are just atrocious in that department. So instant value right there. I think Sauce would love somebody like that on the opposite side of him, next to him, wherever he lines up. We do have him at kind of a 3-year, $40 million kind of guy. So keep him healthy and bring him in next to Sauce, I think would be a huge piece for our offense. Defense, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like you said, I mean, corner 2 is a big need. I mean, listen, there's on the tea leaves is kind of saying that we might go with a CB2 in free agency. I mean, there's plenty of options, but they might stay in-house too. There's plenty of guys in-house that they might just say, hey, if we're not going to offer DJ a contract, we might as well just keep it in-house and have Stiggers, or we might bring back Brandon Echols on the cheap to have compete for that secondary position. We don't know, but these would be 2 guys in the secondary that I would absolutely love to bring in as well. Our next guy on the list is another position of need, and that is Levi Onwuzurike, interior defensive lineman from the Detroit Lions. We're going to have tons of guys linked to us from the Detroit Lions just because of the coaching staff that we have coming on and our new head coach. But Onwuzurike really flashed this year when he was healthy over his first 4 seasons in the league after being drafted 1 round ahead of recently extended interior defensive lineman Aleem McNeil in 2021. The former second-round pick out of Washington is a penetrating 3-technique interior pass rusher that every team covets, with a 12.5 pass rush win rate in 2024, ranking as a top 15 mark at the position. Again, this is another Aaron Glenn connection at the position of need. We desperately need help on the interior of the defensive line, seeing as a majority of our defensive line is leaving in free agency. We're seeing Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw, other guys that are leaving, not to mention that we're just flat out bad in that department, especially in the run game. We have not been great. had a bit of a breakout season this year with 3 sacks. Although that isn't really his game, he's mainly known for being a run stuffer, averaging out as the 25th interior defensive lineman this season. The Jets were awful defending the run, so this could be a great complementary piece to Q on the line. And it doesn't preclude you from also going into the draft as well and looking for another big time run stuffer to add to this room as well. We also have Leonard Taylor III, who's also somebody on the line that we can have on this team. So I think this would be a great compliment to Q. Money wise, Spot Track has him at about 4.5 million average. PFF has him as at about an 8.25 million average. I'm seeing this more as a 2-year, $16 million contract with an option to get out of it after year one. So this is a guy that I really highly think that the Jets are going to bring in just based off connection alone.
Yeah, I think, excuse me, connection alone. And also, like you said, I feel like, me personally, I've just seen him everywhere, all over Twitter, all over, getting a lot of buzz for the Jets. But next guy on the list, Trayvon Moehrig, so safety out of Vegas for the Raiders. The guy is an absolute ball hawk. 5 interceptions and 18 passes defended over the past 2 seasons, but he has also shown considerable growth when coming forward to make plays. He has 3 sacks and 5 quarterback hits over that span, which is kind of, you don't see too much out of safeties anymore. Since 2023, Moehrig is a top 15 safety in interceptions, forced incompletion rate, tackles for loss or gain, and top in defensive stops. So, I mean, he just shows flashes all over the field, exactly what we're looking for. The Raiders did use him as a guy, as a true Swiss Army knife all over the field. He played on the line, slot, free safety, in the box, and out in center. This would be another instant upgrade to our secondary. Can't think of another time that we had somebody like this again. Maybe a guy who hit this much as safety we had was Jamal Adams, but I think we all try and block that out. Have him at 4 years, 60 million. So it'd be about 15 per year for him. But I think that would be a fantastic way to give Sauce a little bit of breathing room, bring in CB2s ever coming in, give him a little bit of breathing room. A line needs a little help on rushing the quarterback, doing whatever. I feel like frees up that defense a lot just to kind of fly around, make big plays, and he seems like that kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like we haven't had a lot of emphasis on the safety position in the last couple of years. You know, Douglas and Saleh, they didn't highly respect that position. They didn't want to spend on that position. I think with the new regime, they highly look into the safety position. So I think this is going to be something that we see the Jets highly prioritize because they work from the secondary down to the line. So I think we're going to see a lot of guys that can make plays on the ball in the secondary. So this would be a great home run selection if we were to go after this guy and bring him in. But the next guy on the list, another position of need, is tight end. So Juwan Johnson, another guy that's being heavily linked to the New York Jets. There will be slim pickings at the tight end position in free agency this offseason. And with Tyler Conklin in free agency, with signs that he's not going to be returning as well, this could be a guy that could easily upgrade the position. As a former wide receiver turned tight end, Johnson offers a large catch radius and good hands over the middle, and he's critical on third downs and in the red zone as well. Over the past 4 seasons, his 18 touchdowns rank 8th among tight ends, and his 9 yards average depth of target ranks 5th in the league, illustrating that he's not just a check down guy, but he's a true downfield threat at the position. Being that we had big issues in the red zone, getting a vertical threat like Johnson and pairing him with a tight end potentially in the draft that is more of a dual threat blocker, would be my next move for this team. Again, this is a guy that is not going to be super expensive. He's looking at a 9-year annual salary, so 3 years, probably around $27 million. You could probably get off of it after a year or two. But this is somebody that I really, really think would be a massive upgrade for our tight end room. And somebody, again, who's been heavily linked to this team. So, you know, where you're seeing smoke, there's fire. I think this is a guy that would easily be an upgrade for the Jets at a position of need. And I definitely think that we would use this as an option to potentially pair with in the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also signing somebody like him, we're getting a new quarterback coming in, whether it be Tyrod, Fields, whoever, you always look to your tight end as like a kind of safety blanket on that offense. So that would be huge. Even pair him, like you said, in the draft with like a Tyler Warren, I think they would feed families for weeks. That would be
100%.
fantastic. So next guy on our list, playing on the offensive line there, Jedrick Wills, out of Cleveland. Unfortunately, he had a little bit of a down year with the Browns. He was battling nagging injuries all year. caused him to miss more than half the season. He was also effectively benched to close out another ugly individual season, despite the Brown despite the Browns' struggles at the tackle spot all year long. He was a top 10 draft pick for the Browns a few years back. He is only 25 years old. That goes a long way, saying you're a top 10 draft pick, even at tackle in free agency. I mean, you take a flyer on him. I mean, all the reports coming out about our tackle spot there on the line. So this would be huge, even just to have him as a backup. God forbid something happens. If we don't end up signing Morgan Moses back, he'd be right there. Penalties have been a bit of an issue in his career. At best, this is a high-end backup, like I was saying. Maybe a good option, only at 25 years old, like I said. Already being in the league for 5 seasons, this could be a great one-year prove-it deal for the Jets. So Spotrac has him at about $2 million a year, PFF at about $3 million a year. At best, 1 year, $3 million deal to be a stopgap bridge option for one season. And again, Julian, you know me personally, Dad's a big Browns fan, so stealing somebody from his team, I'm not petty, but here you go.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like you mentioned, Jedrick Wills, had kind of like a rough go of it the last couple of years in Cleveland. Obviously, when he got there, the team was really, really bad. But he does come from Alabama, a very big time winning program where he played a lot at right tackle. Even though he's a left tackle in the league, he comes from playing a lot of right tackle at Alabama. So he has positional flexibility, and we could throw him at the right tackle position. Again, a cheap option, a retread option. So again, somebody who maybe just needs a change of scenery and could potentially blossom in a new system. So I definitely think this would be a home run signing. But the last guy on our list, and somebody who's being projected to the Jets a lot recently, and that's Nick Bolton, middle linebacker out of Kansas City. The Chiefs have consistently cycled through rookie contract players in the back 7 of their defense and generally let them go in free agency. We saw that with Willie Gay Jr., which was the latest example of an off-ball linebacker last offseason. That said, Gay was a part-time player, whereas Bolton has been a staple middle linebacker spot for almost literally the entire time he's been there since day one. Bolton is a bit stiff when flipping his hips and can be picked up on times in coverage, but he's an absolute bruiser coming forward in the run game. Again, an area that the Jets really suffered on last season and in the seasons past. We really have a hard time stopping the run. So again, pairing Quincy Williams with a guy like Nick Bolton, God forbid if Jamien Sherwood leaves in free agency, this is a guy that I could really see the Jets plugging into that middle linebacker spot. And again, we don't know what the future of CJ Mosley holds either. He's probably either going to retire or leave. So I can really see this being an option for us as well. Spotrac has him at a 12.3 annual AAV, which would put him at a 4-year contract with $49 million. PFF has him at upwards of $15 million a year, which would bring that up to 60. I would probably venture to go with the average, which would be 13.65, which would put him at a 4-year, $54.5 million contract over 4 years. We could probably get it out of that contract after 2 or 3 seasons. He'll probably get a pretty hefty contract from whoever brings him in, but those would be our guys. And again, Jamien Sherwood's really going to be the big time deciding factor of whether or not the Jets are looking for linebacker this offseason.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like I was just hearing about Nick Bolton, honestly, just gets me like super excited. I was just going to ask you quick at the end of the video. You had to pick one guy on this list who you really think you want the most out of these 9 guys on the list. For me personally, I would pick Moehrig just because of the safety position. I think we've lacked that for so long. And I think just having somebody like a true safety who can let sauce be sauce, he gets beat every once in a while, very rarely, but he's there to back him up. Like, who are you going with, like, on this list?
Yeah, I mean, you went with Moehrig. I love Moehrig a lot. I'm going to stay with the safety position. Obviously, Javon Holland is like the big fish of free agency. He's like the guy that I would absolutely love on this defense, just from being somebody who can weaken a division rival. If we don't have to see this guy on the field multiple times a year, that's going to be really helpful. And he just strengthens our defense. That's just a big, giant plus. If I'm not going with Javon Holland and not going with the safety position, I'm honestly in the camp of going with Justin Fields. I really, really like him as a prospect. I think his best football is ahead of him. And I think with the connection that he has with Garrett Wilson, I think that's going to be a big time plus for us because he already has that connection with our star receiver. So I think Those are probably my two favorite on this list. Obviously, there's way more in free agency that the Jets are probably looking into that we're probably not aware of. But, that's our list of the top 9 free agents the Jets should target. And now we want to hear from you guys. Who do you think should be at the top of the Jets wish list come Monday morning? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of this Jets content. And as always, go Jets.